I should say that the secret of happiness is to have a purpose which tells you every morning what you have to do, fills each one of your days with some meaning, and gives a unity and continuity to your life. I can't imagine the average person sitting down and saying, I'm going to give 40 years now to doing this particular job. It's very rarely that anybody is in a situation and to say that. But it happened to me. So I can't universalize the formula. I can only say I was mighty lucky to have a purpose that took me 40 years, and then lucky enough to have a wife who agreed with the idea and who joined in with it and worked with me day after day, right up to this minute. I don't think I'll have any more babies left in my belly. Maybe Ariel will have a few because she is, 13 years younger than I am.
Sweetheart, you know what I think? That you notice the revolution was even more carefully managed. And then, of course, we have the process was carefully indirect. Therefore, carefully, or leave out the second carefully.
Suppose I say subtly indirect.
Very good.
Or subtly managed.
Very good.
All right.
When we first started, after all, the truth isn't anything to be ashamed of. I was myself very young, and therefore at that age wasn't expected to be an educated, mature woman. He really carried out the Aristotelian ideal of marrying somebody so young that you could mold that personage in education to your desires. And his desires were, I think, ever since he was conscious, to write a history of civilization from the point of view of the rounded out cultural contributions to civilization. It's almost half a century when he first got that ideal, and to have been able in 40 or 50 years to have carried it out beyond our wildest dreams, because even in dreams he dreamed modestly. So that he is very thankful, and naturally I am too. Let me see what you took. Oh, I see. Oh, well, don't you think we ought to take a few books, say the latest biography of Byron? How about that? There they are. We may have time. We may have time to read them too. Now, I think we'll just have enough. There. Now we're all ready. We'll just get our coats.
Anyway, I canoed all the way down the Hudson River from Albany to 186th Street. There were 5 days of meditation. I asked myself, do you really want to get married? You know what you're up against? You're earning about $75 a month. And can you support a live woman on that income? So I came down to about 200th Street when a storm developed. And the wind was coming from the north, and it got me going 16 miles an hour in a canoe. Then the waves were too big, and I stopped at 186th Street, left the canoe there, walked to the subway, and I found my way to you, and I was so sunburned that I didn't dare let you touch me. And I don't know just what I said, but I know that when I woke up, we were engaged. If history has any light to shed on this pagan period that we are living in, it tells us that we are in for a Puritan reaction.
How soon? How soon? How soon?
I should say in about 30 or 40 years.
Oh, can I wait that long? I'm tired of making
No, you better take advantage of your permissiveness
Not
now.
me. I'm too old to do that.
They are flinging pornography into our faces to such an extent that after a while we'll be sick of pornography. We'll want some normality and decency again. I'm convinced that that will come. Of course, I won't see it. Perhaps I'm enjoying this period a little bit too much. I'm the unregenerate pagan. I suppose it's easier for a Frenchman to be a pagan than most other people.
He certainly isn't exactly a Puritan, so he must be
No, I don't apologize for my enjoyment of the flesh and the joys of life. All I can say is that France still lives despite the fact that it loves Rabelais. And so I can only say that I wish you were as happy as I am. I wish you enjoyed life as much as I do. And I don't see why I should apologize for it. I haven't killed anybody. I haven't stolen anything since I was a boy. And I've been reasonably faithful to you, don't you think? So let's rejoice in the goods that we have and not continually carry our sorrows with us. Well, almost all my schooling was from nuns and priests. It's remarkable how I have gone wrong with all that wonderful start. And so you picture me there studying theology and all this time wondering, am I crazy? Shall I go on with this? Is this hypocrisy? I came upon Spinoza's famous book called Ethics Geometrically Demonstrated. But he was an example of a man who clung to his ideas regardless of the consequences to himself, see? And so one day I went down to this rector, whom I loved very much, you know. And I had to tell him, Father, I can't stay with you any longer. And he said, Willie, I knew you wouldn't. Isn't that interesting? He knew it. Yeah, well, he could see from my face, I suppose. I thought he was going to denounce me, but instead of that, he came from around his desk and he put his arm around me. And he said, stay with us for a while as a teacher. Okay.
And then you did. You stayed on as a teacher.
I stayed 6 months more there as a teacher. I resumed my old classes. And he was so kind to me that I burst out crying like a child.
Seems to me you're ready to cry now when you think of him.
Next to my father, he was there, and before you, he was the one that I loved most in all the world.
Now, your story was very interesting because it was, so to speak, the development of the mind. My story is sadder, but I was a truant from public school. I was playing hooky. And my father, my mother, they were separated. We weren't watched over too carefully. But I did not like the public schools. I didn't know what they were teaching. It didn't fit into them. And that morning I played hooky, and I walked over towards the park, Central Park. And I saw a woman coming to the park with a number of children. They were all ages and all sizes. And I puzzled. I wondered, is this a mother or is it a teacher? If it's a mother, how could she have so many children who are so near each other in age and so many? And if it's a teacher, how could she be so wonderful? How could she be so human? How could they touch her and she touch them? And they go to her pocket and take something out and they play with her. And she touches this one lovingly and fondles that one on the head. And I said, I'll find out. I will follow them. And when they were ready to leave the park, they got up and they walked, and I walked after them. After a few blocks, they stopped before one of these New York brownstone houses with about 10, 11 steps. I followed them up the steps and walked into the main room, which was a classroom with desks and chairs. And I ran and grabbed one of them. And a little girl came nearby and said, "You have my seat." And the teacher said, "Little girl, what are you doing here?" Just the way you asked. And I got up and I said, "If this is a school, I want to be in this school. I like this school. I watched you in the park. You're so good, and I don't like the public schools. They don't understand me. I'm so unhappy. I never know what they're trying to tell me to do." And she said, "Well, that's very interesting." And she took me to an office where she said to another woman who might have been a principal, "This little girl knows the public school, and she prefers our school." And the principal said, "That's very good indeed. That's exactly what we need. Somebody who prefers us to the public school." And this wonderful school and this wonderful teacher, I was very, very happy. My people didn't know where I was anyway, and nobody disturbed me. But one day, I came to school, and lo and behold, who was there? Funny-looking man, young man, took off a cap, talked through his nose, and he never moved his lips. He talked like this. He just never moved his lips.
That was me, huh?
And he had a few pimples, and his pocket bulged. His lunch was an apple in one pocket, a few peanuts in another, because we found out he was a vegetarian. We dipped our hands in, and we ate after we ate our substantial lunch, we'd eat his little bits here and there for our dessert. And you said, "You stay in after school." And from then on, I learned history. My teacher became my guide and my friend. I married you when I was 15, when I knew nothing. I had been accustomed to fighting the boys in the street and skating and beating them at skating and bicycling with them and hitching on wagons and all. When I found out how monotonous marriage could be, what did I do? I didn't wait for a woman's lip. I just went off by myself. I took my bicycle and I bicycled off to Boston. And you didn't see me again for a number of weeks. I knew you were worried, but I knew that if I were not ready to come home, I should not bother you. And I asked you, and I said, "If you still want me, would you please come and get me on my bicycle?" You came, Will. When you met me, Will, I was a tabula rasa, and you knew that it was because I knew nothing that you could make something of me. And from there, because you knew that I was good for you, that my adventurous spirit, my energy, and my desire to know everything, I would fill myself up and I would bring it to you. You were stationary. You had to sit all the time. You had to read the worlds of books, the great knowledge in the Word. Though you were learning the world from books, you had not had many adventures because you were almost like a little monk. You knew nothing but church history, church philosophy, and the Word of God. But did you know much about the Word of man? This is very interesting because it was when Napoleon came through here that there was an attempted assassination as he was going out through one of these gates. Look at me as though you were 30, 40, 50 years younger, as you did when you were not surfeited, but still desirous.
Well, nobody at the age of 30 knows what love is. And nobody at the age of 40 knows what love is. Nobody at the age of 50. You have to be 86.
Do you now know what love is?
That's the Mr. David Frost question. What is love?
No.
You defined it once as mutual consideration permanent.
But punctuated by mutual itching. What I mean, is it merely consideration? Is it that? That, I should say, is a deep friendship.
Some French cynic defined it as mutual titillation of the flesh, but that's a horrible definition.
That's a French cynic, by all means.
But remember, was it de Maupassant said a beautiful thing. He said, dans le véritable amour, c'est l'âme qui enveloppe le corps. In true love, it is the soul that embraces the body. What do you think of that? Isn't that good?
Now, does that true love of the soul embracing the body last for more than a moment? Does it last forever? In true love? Can true love last forever? I mean, as an embrace.
No, but he said, if the love is true, it is the soul that is embracing the body, not the body that embraces the body.
Well, and does that leave the body out altogether?
No, it comes in, but it has to keep quiet.
Oh, well, in other words, it's very hard to define what true love is, isn't it?
That's why I wonder sometimes whether the young people today know what love is, because they get the body so easily that the soul doesn't have to be agitated. It comes at a very low price, the body does. Maybe after 8 or 9 adventures, they think of love purely in terms of body, instead of having forced to develop a profounder.
Well, when you're young, you think of what you have to think. We're only talking that way because we have matured to an old age, and we have forgotten that we were young. We weren't so philosophical, so full of wisdom. We too had bodies that were desirous and longing.
Oh, we knew much more answers when we were young than we do now.
That's right, and that's why we must be a little understanding of the young. In a sense, it may be envy that makes the old always think that the young know nothing while they're young, that they have merely feeling.
Before you were born, in 1912. You were still a dream.
I was still a dream, yeah. I was still a little bit of fluff in someone's eye by then, wasn't I?
Yeah. You're a nice boy. You're a nice doggy. Have you been waiting for us? Are you waiting for the old master?
It says, give me time to get rid of my
You're waiting
fleas.
for the old master, who will never be here again. You're a nice boy.
You're a big fellow.
Yeah. Have you seen Wordsworth?
Good. Oh. If we write decently about Wordsworth, it will be in part because we stayed there and breathe the flowers in the garden that he planted, because he was a great gardener. They planted all sorts of flowering shrubs around there for half a mile around.
What, is this a dust mask of Wordsworth?
I should think so, yeah. No, it's 1850. You can't read that.
Could you tell us, Mr. Betts?
Mr. Butts, Dr. Butts.
Could you tell us, Dr. Betts, look to the left and to the right, the sheer beauty
I've got to look at my feet first.
Look at these flowers, they're so beautiful. This is the walk where he walked every day and dictated to either his friends. Oh, my, the view from here is such...
Of immortality.
Yes?
He said that he had lost his religious faith.
Yes.
But then he saw a little girl holding a seashell up to her ear.
Yes.
And listening to the murmur of the seashore.
Beautiful library. Back to our beginnings in this library.
Small stamper that you wrote 20 years back.
And you have it.
Yes, we do.
It's so lovely because we've lost track of it.
Here is a small print on the career and his work.
Well, that's where I attended the school, 63 East 107th Street.
I forgot.
And it's all 5 cents. Oh, yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Can I steal this?
Certainly.
See, that's where it was first.
Yeah.
104 East 12th Street, and I wasn't there.
63 East 107.
Yeah. And there's that darling Leonard Abbott, Harry Claddagh, all of them. Alexander Berkman, that's the anarchist. And Boyd Bayerson.
I met
And
this girl in the school.
Really?
100 years ago.
And the principal is William J. Durant.
I saw that. You were...
And then I got it.
I said once that philosophy is more interesting than science because science deals with problems that can be answered. And philosophy deals with problems that will never be answered. You used to sit with me when we went to hear Dewey.
Yeah.
Woodward. Woodbridge.
Woodbridge I understood, but Dewey, his way of talking was beyond my comprehension.
Nobody understood Dewey, except a few of us who took down what he said word by word, because he talked so slowly that you could take him down in longhand. And then when we went back to our rooms, we read what we had written, and it turned out to be full of illumination. Just what it says on the little up there. Illuminate tuo videbimus lumen. In your light we shall see light. Of the many ideals which in youth gave life a meaning and radiance, one at least has remained with me as bright and satisfying as ever before. The shameless worship of heroes. To contemplate such men, to watch them at their work and warm ourselves at the fire that consumes them, this is to recapture some of the thrill that youth gave us when we thought at the altar or in the confessional that we were touching or hearing God. In that dreamy youth we believed that life was evil and that only death could usher us into paradise. We were wrong. Even now, while we live, we may enter it. Every great book, every work of revealing art, every record of a devoted life is a call and an open sesame to the Elysian fields. Too soon we extinguish the flame of our hope and our reverence. Let us change the icons and light the candles again. Well, I feel 100 times more in love now than I was when we were married.
But you always told me you were in love to such a degree that more was impossible.
Well,
Since when did you catch on the impossible?
I'm using Einsteinian mathematics.
Oh, well, then I can't fault you because I'm very weak in mathematics.
Yeah, we've been very lucky, haven't we?
We'll be celebrating If we survive this year, we'll be celebrating our 60th anniversary.
You know, I'm enjoying this so much that maybe it shouldn't stop. I've met so many fine people that I've almost lost my faith in the wickedness of mankind.
Well, sweetheart, that as a realistic historian, as a man who comprehends history, you're signing your name to quite a statement.
Oh, no. All the wickedness that you hear about, all the crimes, they are a small element in the moment of history or in the day's work. And behind it are 1,000 millions of homes in which men are going out, earning a living for their wives and children. Women are diapering their babies. Think of it for this. If we gave vent to all our secret instincts, we'd still be savages and barbarians.
Or maybe monkeys yet.
Of course. We control ourselves, don't we? I'm controlling myself at this moment. Let's go home.